Hello, everybody, and welcome to Arsenal X, Boss Rush's Xbox podcast. I am your host, Jesse Douglas, and I am here with Eddie V. How's it going, Ed?
I'm excited to be here. We have taken a break and now
Yeah,
we are back. Me and you like literally haven't like really talk in a while. Wow.
yeah.
I know
Well,
that sounds a lot, but normally we'll be like on the phone or we'll be messaging and stuff. But I don't know, you've been busy, I've been busy, and we're just like, look, I guess it's a break time. Unknown break
yeah,
time, I should say.
yeah. So what happened last week is we didn't plan on having off, but my weekends lately have been very busy because we got like a lot of family stuff and just like a lot of stuff going on. So I've got I would normally work third shift, and so like I'm normally up all night, but lately I've been having to on the weekends go to bed early and then get up early so I can be up, at a regular time during the day to do stuff with family and stuff. And it was like that again this week. And it's been like that for the last couple of weekends. I've been sleeping essentially until Ed gets home from work. And then we would get up and record the show. But last week I fell asleep super early. I think it was like 5 o'clock in the afternoon
Mhm.
or even earlier than that. And I forgot to set an alarm, and so I woke up and it was like 1 o'clock in the morning or something like that. And I'm like, oh crap.
Yeah, because I got home and I was just like, Jesse, I'm ready. And I'm just holding. Look, it kind of happened this Thursday also. I was getting ready and just waiting. And then I messaged this person, I won't say who. And they were just like, I thought we was recording. He's just like, you weren't there, weren't you? It's just, I was just like, no, I wasn't. He's just like, okay. And then he let me know what happened. So I was just like,
Yeah,
okay, that's fine. Um,
yeah,
so,
yeah.
but we
So
are back.
it's yeah. So that hopefully that won't that won't happen again. Like, because I was looking forward to that week too, recording, but I was just yeah, I passed out and completely forgot to set an alarm. So
And if you need your rest, take your break, get your rest on.
yeah,
Uh, like I tell people, we at Pop Block, like I give my co-hosts breaks and stuff, and be like, go ahead and take a break. Be able to spend time with your family, do what you need to do. Like me,
yeah,
I'm a single person, so I can host whenever I can host, and if there's
yeah,
an emergency, when you guys could take over for me and
yeah,
everything.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is like with these shows we've kind of always tried to be pretty flexible so we can try to like do stuff on the like a lot of times we're doing stuff on the fly. Like in now moving forward, like I know like I think next week it might end up being me and Corey doing the show because he's been wanting to come on again, and and like
mhm.
obviously he's like this is too late for him. So I don't know if we're gonna do it Saturday or what, but he just wanted to hop on for an episode or whatever, and then and I said, well, like we could. So when you're listening to the show, it's gonna be some mix of either me and Ed or me and Corey occasionally, or whatever, whenever, or if there's a weekend or something where it can work out where all three of us are on, that would
Mhm.
be even better. But so yeah, so there'll be little changes here and there. I would like to get like more people on here as well, like try to have three people, but it's so difficult. I know my friend Pat has said he wants to come on. It's just he's got to get like a microphone, and he's got to get a couple of things in order to be able to do it. And I said, well, don't worry about like spending too much, because if
Right.
if it's not something you're planning on doing, but something that you want to have for other things down the road. I said that's fine, but don't spend too much money. And now like a webcam and stuff, you can get a decent one for pretty cheap.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
and
a lot of stuff that happened during the pandemic is coming back, like the webcams and
hmm
mixers and microphones and stuff like that. A lot of
yeah,
that um is coming back because it was kind of hard to get a lot of that stuff. And
yeah,
with
yeah,
people being at home and everything, they were just like, well, we need to get this web camera for our Zooms and get these microphones and stuff like that. And
hmm
definitely with people who are streaming and everything, a lot of that now is coming back, like more restocks. There's still some things that are still problematic, but I think
hmm
once a lot
mostly
of
appliances.
yeah, but but I think once a lot of stuff opens back up during the summer and fall, I think we will start seeing more of a restock and everything.
hmm
We will see that demand will start going down because they have workers in there, and so they'll be able to handle the supply and
Yeah.
everything. It's gonna take a while, um, for a lot of stuff, even for like PlayStation and Xbox. We've been talking to definitely LeRon knows a lot about it, about the chips and stuff.
Yeah.
The shortages and everything, but I think once production and stuff ramps up and you get more people in and everything, uh we'll probably be able to see more of it, which is a funny thing. And I know we'll get into like the housekeeping and stuff like that. Me and Cam, well, was talking about it. No, not Cam, I'm sorry. Me and one of my friends from Twitter, we were talking about um workers and everything. And there
hmm
was a thing about Chipotle that these people, they went on strike. They weren't coming into work, and so they had to close the store. And they told them why, because people were being underpaid. And it was kind of funny to me. And I'm not trying to make this political or anything, but a lot of stores, and whether it's retail, restaurants, big businesses, a lot of people are doing a lot of hire, asking, for people to come and be hired, but like not enough people are going in and everything. And so or applying and everything. And it's kind of weird to be like all those people who yelled about that, um, you know, who yelled about uh immigrants and minorities and stuff are taking all the jobs. Now that there's a big hiring thing and immigrants and minorities are not taking the jobs, where are the people at who yelled all of this stuff? Why are they not applying and everything and trying to get American jobs back and stuff? Because
Yeah.
if they feel like that all of these other people were taking American jobs, and I know this is an Xbox podcast, taking all of these jobs, like why are they not feeling it? Um, and everything. Like I think me and LeBron was talking about, like they're trying to still find engineers and
Yeah.
everything for these chip places. They're having a hard time finding them. Like a lot of places are
Yeah.
just having a hard time finding people, and it's just like, is it? And I don't think it's because of unemployment or anything. I think it's because of the pay and stuff that
Well,
people don't want to go in and stuff.
this whole topic is a little like there's a lot of stuff that has gone on. Like, like there we did have some, situations where a lot of like especially in the oil companies and stuff like that,
Hmm.
a lot of people got laid off because of when the demand for oil and for gas and gasoline and all that stuff, petroleum, dropped. They couldn't afford to keep people working, and so they laid a lot of people off. And now, like, because they're, and again, this is, like, this doesn't really have anything to do with this podcast, but basically, essentially, there's been talk about there being a point in time where gas prices are going to go up extensively because they're not going to be able to produce it as much because they when they were producing too much, they were like, there's talk of them like dumping it out and wasting it because they had too much of it, and they didn't want the prices to drop too low, and so they literally will just get rid of it, so they don't have too much, essentially.
Right.
It's annoying, but
It's
yeah, so there's a
right.
lot of things like that too that have been going on where companies are laying people off, but it's like because they don't want to lose money then, but now when they need people to start working once things go back up, now they've got to hire more people and whatever. It's
hmm
kind of stupid, how some of the companies have done stuff like that, but
and the food like some of the restaurants that are restaurant chains that still have been open, like
mhm.
they're struggling to get workers there, and it's just like how do you fix this? Like, do you just take the hit and like literally raise up, not raise up prices for the food, but raise up paying your workers and everything? I
Mhm.
know some people be like, $9 or $10 is not going to do it, which is pretty much true depending
Go
on
to
where you
Menards.
live. But
We were at Menards the other day,
mhm,
and they like the one by us said they're starting at 14.48 an hour or something like that, and then weekends you make $1 more. If you work on the weekend, you make like 15 something an hour.
right.
So, yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that, like, I think there's just a lot that's going on, and we're not through this pandemic completely yet. So
Yeah,
I think things are just going to be screwy for
and
a while
and it's got
until it
it's
normals out. But
right, and it's kind of going to be hard to for people to say who wanna they can't wait to go traveling. I'm like, well, if you really don't got a job, I don't know how a lot of people survive, but I'm like, if you are in a position where you are hurting for money and stuff, this is kind of weird saying this, but that I'm like, sometimes you're gonna have to make a sacrifice, and you're gonna have to find something that's
yeah,
at least is gonna pay you reasonable, that you can find reasonable, that you can do, whether it be a not so good paid job, or you got to get two jobs, because it's just like, and if there are people who are literally hiring, I'm like,
mhm.
you got to take as much as you can and
well,
get some funds into your
well,
account if you're
well,
struggling, I should say.
yeah, well, and I think one other thing too. I think you're kind of not thinking about is the fact that some of these people may still have kids home yet too. So
Yeah.
you can't take a job because in a lot of cases, no, like if you're taking any job that you can, essentially you're gonna all that whole entire check might go into childcare anyways.
hmm
So you decide, would you rather stay home with your kids and get to spend time with them, or literally work just so you can pay for them to not be home?
But I think one of the struggle is that a lot of parents actually realize what it is like to be with their older kid,
Yeah.
or every day, and they kind of realize what teachers got to go through
Hmm.
teaching their kids. So
Hmm.
what parents are not seeing, they're
Yeah.
now seeing the struggles and everything. So
Yeah.
they're definitely, when those kids go back to school and everything, then of course the parents gonna be like, yes, I could go out and do what I need to do,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
feed my family and pay the bills and stuff. It's just, like I said, it's a weird thing.
Yeah.
It's just seeing a lot of places that are hiring everywhere,
Yeah.
and definitely, yeah, it like the food places and like the little small businesses stuff, like, yes, they may not pay much at this time, all of that may change, but I'm just like, a lot of stores are going to be hurting in a different way because people don't want to go into work, and I kind of wonder, just like, how are people who are not working surviving? Like, is unemployment really that big and stuff?
I yeah, well, and we'll move on to the show after
Yes.
this. But I do know there are some things that they have going on right now that I think something that Biden had put in place for parents who like have kids home and stuff like that,
Right.
and that can't go to school, and if they, like essentially what they got to do is they got to um keep receipts of food and things showing that they're paying for their kids to eat lunch every day at home and all these kinds of things, and then you can turn those receipts in and you get like a big chunk of money every month or something. I don't know a whole lot about it. I was hearing someone talking about it today, but yeah. So I mean, I think there's some kinds of things they're trying to put in place for parents who have kids home and stuff and have to stay home because they want, they need to be home with their kids because they can't afford to, bring them anywhere else, or don't
Yes.
want to bring them, somewhere, among other kids, or, like there's so many different variables
A
in
lot
this
of factors.
situation that yeah, everything is just so messed up, including games. Like there's I've been saying since the beginning of the year, we've been getting all these announcements of these games coming this year for consoles and exclusives for both consoles, and I'm telling you that it's not over yet, that there's still a lot of these games I think that Sony has been announcing, that Microsoft, possibly some of the stuff they've announced might be getting delayed still. It's still early in the year, so I mean there's plenty of time for us to hear. I think Halo I think will come out, but there's a lot of other stuff I think is up in the air for both consoles. So like anyone like getting all excited about like exclusives coming out this year for any of the consoles, I just say hold your hold your excitement, because don't be surprised if it gets delayed, because we're still
Yeah,
not completely out of this. So
we was talking about this on Crossroads, that I'm like, I think even games that do get delayed or they come out, I'm like, I think once things kind of somewhat return to normal, those sales are going to jump because
yeah,
people are able to now go out and purchase them, if they can, if they're buying the physical version, I should say.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I yeah, I'm sure we'll see some changes and stuff, but ultimately I think, like, at the same time though, I think there are a lot of the chances of people buying games and stuff more, it would be now when they're at home and not working. Some people aren't still going back to work, and having trying to do stuff still in the house, and or a lot of people in California and stuff who still don't want to go out and do things, and so I don't know. Yeah, well, it's one of those things where there'll be an anomaly, and that we'll be able to go back and look at and stuff from like from a distance, and kind of look at how things happen and what happened, and I'm sure it will
mhm.
be part of the part of history moving forward, where there'll be talk about this kind of stuff happening, similar to like the Great Depression and things like that. Like this is was a unique situation that in a modern time where everything's documented, that we'll be able to go, in the future, talk about this from every aspect, from video games, from car dealerships, or manufacturers, I mean, and stuff like that. So just every tech level, essentially.
Right.
All right, so we will get into what's in our arsenal here, I think, and we'll talk about what we've been playing.
Well, you go. You go first, Jesse.
You want me to go first? Okay.
Yeah.
So I now have a PlayStation in my house. I got a PS4 from my friend. I bought his PS4 because he's got a PS5, so he doesn't really need it. So I've been playing a little bit of stuff on there, but Um, but mostly, I've been on Xbox. I've been playing. I did play a little Outriders the other day. But I've been playing. Well, I've been playing near Replicant,
Hmm.
and I've been enjoying that game for the most part. I I wish that they could have tooled out the loading screens because there's a lot of loading screens even for I mean, luckily with the new consoles, the loading screen only lasts like a couple of seconds.
Yeah.
But it's still really super annoying when they want you to exit a building and then it's a loading screen and then you go somewhere and then you go out of the town and then it's a loading screen and then you got to go back into town and then it's a loading screen and then you got to go back into that building that you just left and then it's a loading screen and then you got to leave that building and then it's a loading screen. It's just like I like with the technology and stuff where it is, I feel like they probably would have had to redo that game quite a bit to tool that stuff out because it was just so baked into it. So I think it's just a product of the original creation of that game,
Hmm.
and they just really didn't change any of that stuff, kind of left it as it was. But like overall, like I really like that game. I really love that first boss fight when you're releasing the book,
Yeah.
the book that helps you. Like that was like I really love the combat and stuff in those games. Like Nier Automata too. I like that game as well, and I need to finish that. But I wanted to go to this one, and I just really wanted to see this game because I had heard so much stuff about it, about it being, originally unreleased or they had a different version of it here or in Japan or whatever because it was like your dad or something like that. It was the character of the dad. You were playing as the dad instead of the brother or something like that.
Uh-huh.
I forget, but yeah, like I really like a lot of the aspects of this game, and like for me, I just really like the boss battle type stuff, like the bigger character type battle stuff, because they just do a really good job with design and like the look of things and stuff. Um, yeah, I really like that a lot, and I've been thinking about going back to Recore and trying to finish that because I'm probably like halfway through that game, and with Returnal coming out, it's a
Returnal's
lot.
out.
Yeah, I said with Returnal. Yeah, with Returnal coming, like when it came out, there was
Oh,
talk about people, comparing it to Returnal to
Recore.
Recore and like I didn't really think about it at first, but I'm like, oh yeah, it is very similar in like some of the ways that you do like fights with bosses and with the characters and things like that, but it's almost like if you took Anthem, like the very very high quality like uh you know polish of
Hmm.
Anthem, like how everything looks all realistic and stuff in the world and all that. If you took that Anthem and mixed it with Recore, like that's kind of what Returnal reminds me of. And but like Recore, I really liked it when I was playing it last, but I kind of just fell off of it because I had other stuff I wanted to play, and other things that I was getting to. And but yeah,
Like
then
Recore was not finished.
well, when it first came out, maybe. I mean, it was really good when I was playing it
Well, the thing about it is
because
just
they fixed a lot of it and they made it a much better game later.
Well, that's for they made it better because of the definitive edition, but you can't get the last version. Like when you play the original version, you can't get the last robot. You have to buy the definitive version to get it. There's no DLC for the original one.
Huh.
Yeah, they cut the DLC out because there's one when you're playing the original version. There's one area that's like shaded out that you cannot go to.
Hmm.
And when they did the definitive version, that's when they added that part, and
Oh,
they never added the DLC for that. And then you still gotta do when you get to the last part of the game, you still gotta go out in the world and get the spheres, meet the requirement for the spheres to get further on till you get to the boss. And if you
yeah.
don't have it, you gotta go back and get it. And it was just like I said, it wasn't finished when the game came out, but the design is just the backtracking design just really messed up the flow of the game of Recore.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember too much back, but yeah, I guess there's some areas where you needed to get like get the spheres or whatever to bring, and you'd open up one section and then whatever you collected
Mm.
there to go back to open a different pathway or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I didn't mind it. Um,
I mean, I did. I stopped at the end of the game. I got to the final part, where I had to go back and collect spheres and stuff, and it was just like I gotta do so much to get it, and then I get to the next level and I gotta still collect more spheres to open that part up. And I think you gotta do it like around 3 or 4 times, and it was just like you might as well just stay out in the world and collect all the spheres in the game till you get to the end part of the end till you get to that final version, or not final
yeah,
version, final part of the game, so you
yeah,
can actually just like skip it and do it. But there's so much that you have to go through and do, like and then it's not so much a grind, but it's just like it feels like chores, and it's tiresome chores that you got to
yeah,
do all of this because they don't warn you or anything for it. Like it would have been fine that you collect spheres, you get to the end portion, and you just fight the final boss, and that's the end of the game. But they
yeah,
put that portion back. They put that portion in to make the game longer, and
yeah.
it's just like you had a great flow with this game, but this section, this flexion messes up that flow of the game.
Yeah.
So when the
A lot
definitive
of
version
games,
came out,
a
oh,
lot
go
of
ahead.
games do that. Like they stick a whole bunch of busy work into it just to make it longer, and it's
No,
never, and like there's been, I've seen some people talking uh recently because um Resident Evil Village, which is another game I played a little bit of. I played a couple hours of that.
mm,
People were saying that it's not super long for the sake of being long, which is good. And like and I've talked about this before, that honestly, like if I pay $60 for, or $70 now, or whatever, for a game, I'm fine with like maybe 13 or 14 hours tops of content. Um, like in my opinion, a lot of the times anything past 10 hours is just unnecessary.
but
Like
that's
because
but
there's
that becomes the question of, is it unnecessary because it's a single player or a story driven narrative game, or
yeah,
is it because the thing about it is just like why is that unnecessary? But if you play something like Call of Duty, or you play something like Fortnite, um anything past that long time limit that you play just for that one particular game is acceptable. Even though the
well,
connection is even though the
because it's
connection is
because
different.
it's yeah, it's
Mm,
ever changing. It's never the same exact thing every time.
it's mostly about spending that time with the game. I think I'm trying to not argue. I think it's probably what I'm trying to connect in,
Yeah,
where where anything, because a lot of people, they've been talking about paying price for the length of a game and stuff, difficulty, whatever that may be. It would be up to that person, but it's always kind of funny that people say that they don't want long single player games, but you're spent that same length that you playing in the game, you'll spend in uh, just using Destiny for example. I always get on Destiny or the Division.
Yeah.
You're doing this grind, this repetitive stuff, and you're spending the same time in that game that you would do in a single player game.
Mhm.
Even though you're making more progress in a single player game than you are in, let's say, like the Destiny or the Division. You're grinding to get something, and you're doing
Mhm.
repetitive stuff and everything. And so it's like people complain about it. Not saying that you complain about it.
No.
There's some people who have opinions about single player games, but they never say nothing about multiplayer games. You know.
Well, I think the thing is too is it's like you're talking about completely different people. Like
Mhm.
the people who mostly care about multiplayer and stuff like that. Like I mean, like that's more of a lot of times it's more of a social thing
Yeah.
versus, like when it comes to playing a single player game though, I I want to be able to, and about well, I mean, if you want to think about it this way, I mean, like for me, a video game, a single player video game should last about as long as a season of a TV show. And a lot of TV shows now are like maxing out at about 10 episodes. 1 hour,
On the
1 hour,
service kind of
yeah,
show. Yeah.
one hour an episode. Maybe a 2 hour finale episode. So that's 10, 11 hours only.
So so
So if you look at it
oh
that
no
way,
oh go ahead because
yeah. So if you look at it that way, if you're playing a single player game and the whole entire storyline ends in 12, 13 hours, that's about as long as watching a whole entire season of a TV show.
so
And
why
then
so why do games like that with the end? I guess the end goals are different for each game.
yeah.
And I know we're gonna get back to it. We always get into these kind of
Yeah.
like topics and stuff. Why is it the end game for a single player narrative game gets this kind of opinion and this logic, but never multiplayer stuff? So, because the thing
Well,
about it is, because the thing about it is that we okay, a 13-hour game. Okay, that's for one difficulty. Can you say the
yeah.
same? Can you add that same kind of length if you change the difficulty? Because the difficulty in a
Yeah.
multiplayer game never changes. It just
Yeah.
depends on who you're going against. Where if you're playing a single player game and you're trying to do achievements and trophies and collectibles and stuff, that may add longer to the game. But
Yeah.
like, do you think that it should equal out to if you're playing the same amount of time in a multiplayer game or a looter shooter or whatever kind of
Yeah.
game that has a lift that doesn't get any complaints? Should it be the same that what I need to run through to get my full experience of this game to equal as the other stuff that I play? I should run through easy. I should run through the normal. I should run through the hardest difficulty. And like if they got
Yeah.
maniac or whatever the stuff is, I should run through that. And that should equal the same thing that I'm running through as a multiplayer game. Because
Yeah.
the thing about it is that, well, you playing for 13 hours where you play 13 hours in a multiplayer game and more and stuff,
Yeah.
and a lot of people don't give that complaint.
Yeah, but again, those are two separate.
Yeah,
Those are two separate.
separate
Like
things. Yeah.
there's yeah, because like like multiplayer game, you're the only reason you continue to play that
Hmm.
is to challenge yourself as far as trying to get better at something.
and
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 I mean it's similar to
and
that if you play a story, game, like, upping the difficulty, but you're still going against a computer. That sense
But
of,
but your challenge is different. So
yeah,
your skill
yeah,
set is different. Because if you're playing on a certain difficulty, let's just go with normal. If you're playing on a certain difficulty with normal, you only have a set skill set where the AI could change in another thing. You might get more blocky, you might get
mhm,
more dodgy.
yeah,
You might be like, okay, this weapon that I usually use it is not doing that same amount of effect. Where
yeah,
people would spend hours and hours and hours replaying the same thing in Destiny to get some armor piece and would never complain about it. But if you was doing the same thing in a multiplayer game, they would be like, okay, I can't do this. This has become a little bit too repetitive and stuff.
yeah.
The
Well,
connection,
I
yes,
think
and the
I
connection
think
is
the
weird,
thing
yes.
I think the thing with single player games though is a lot of times everything is pretty set as far as, like, usually, like in a regular single
Hmm.
player game, like there's a path of what you need to do, and then once you've done it, you get this, you get that, and like there's not like this is how I look at it. This is why, like, for the difference for me, between multiplayer and single player, like a single player game, like, you know, I wanna be able to just finish the story in a a nice amount of time. It doesn't, like, not super long, just because I want to be able to have that experience and then move on to a new experience sooner
Hmm.
than having to put way too much time into one game before I can go to anything else. And that's part of what my problem with me not finishing games a lot of time is, because I lose interest, or I lose my attention span sometimes on games will fade away, and I kind of want to do something else, and then I'll come back to a game and finish it a lot of the times. So, like, for me, like, when a game is a little bit shorter, it's much easier for me to digest and experience in a shorter amount of time, and I'm more likely to stick with it
Hmm.
if it's a shorter,
Well,
like, not, I just don't like when everything gets all convoluted, because you're trying
mhm.
to remember over 60, 70 hours of stuff that you did. Now, who was this person, or like, there's a lot, like, if there's too much going on, it just kind of jumbles everything, and it can lose vision of the main story plots when you start throwing all this extra stuff in there that just kind of dilutes the story, the main storyline, I think, sometimes.
Do you
And that's
think?
why you hear a lot of people who will just mainline the story and won't do any of the side quests, because they just want to be able
And
to
and
focus on the
and
story.
and that depends on what genre of game that you're playing.
Yeah.
I think I'm speaking like something like Uncharted, which is like kind of level based. For
Yeah.
example, I'm just using Uncharted. Oh,
Uh,
I won't even use Uncharted. I'll use Quantum Break. Quantum Break for for what it offers and everything.
mm,
Where people might feel like that game is too long because definitely with the TV stuff, but that's something completely else. Um, where it's just like, yeah, sometimes you might have to do things over and over and people might feel like a certain way, but I'm just like, if you're doing the if you're complaining about sometimes the repetitive, not saying you, if people are complaining about the repetitive stuff that they're doing in single player games, why is it acceptable in multiplayer games doing repetitive stuff to get something that may only give you +2 in armor or +2 in guns and stuff,
again
and it gives.
again I think it's because of that the social part, like,
Mhm.
like I've said, like, I can play multiplayer games for longer stretches of time, and more continuously than
Yeah.
I can single player games, only if I'm playing it with friends, because then it's not so much, the game is more of a backdrop, then it's secondary to the conversation and the socializing that's happening. It's more, it's a vehicle for our conversation and our, our socializing. Whereas with a single player game, if you're just sitting in front of it, it's similar to like, and I don't want to completely, but like, like most people would rather, drink, drink with friends than, sit home and drink alone, because that's not as fun. And so like, I look at it that way, that like, I don't want to do something like that for that long period of time by myself.
Because sometimes it feels like in multiplayer games, you don't have to get any kind of comprehension. Where in single player games, because of the story, you got to get that comprehension. You got to get that narrative and stuff. Yeah. And so, and that
but
may
a lot of times they put too much extra stuff in there that's unnecessary and doesn't add to the story. See, that's the thing is, I think people just want a more focused
story.
And
sometimes when multiplayer games do it, the same thing, a lot of people get invested in that, and there are no complaints. And like I said, it's up to that particular person. Yeah. So that's why I've always kind of, I think I kind of, and I might actually write a blog. I mean, this might be an editorial. Why when it comes to time in games, one has the complaints and the other one gets overlooked? Because I feel like this: if you're able to spend 8 or 10 hours or even 40 hours in a multiplayer game per week, you should be able to do that in a role-playing game that offers this, that it is single player. It doesn't have no social things. But if you are invested in 40 hours a week in a multiplayer game over and over again, you should be able to do that in Final Fantasy, Persona, The Legend of Zelda. You should be able to do the same thing. And this is more of a time investment than getting anything out of the game.
Well, yeah, and that's, and that's fine. That, like, obviously those games do exist, but people like me who don't want to have to do that are just not going to play it. They're, like, you're going you're gonna get less people playing your game.
But the thing, but the thing about it is that, and the reason I guess I use RPG is because multiplayer games use RPG elements. They stolen stuff from the RPG genre, but there are certain people who refuse to play the genre that it came from. And I know this is a time thing that goes into something else. And it's just like, but if you're that's why I say, if you're spending the time in a game that this element was stolen from, you should be able to go in and play that element that it came from, because you're doing almost the same thing. It's just different the way that it go out. I'm sorry, everybody. I know we got.
I mean, hey, this is a good conversation, and I think, that's kind of what we want to do with these shows, is just have them be just feel like a loose conversation, but we're talking about Xbox and stuff, I completely understand what you're getting, or what you're getting at and stuff, and like, I do agree, like, if there are people who do enjoy, like, the grind of games like Destiny or something like that, I do feel like those people will play those kind of first player games and stuff and don't complain about it. But I think it's what you get is, if you get certain people who maybe aren't used to playing games that are super grindy, and then you get to a game that everyone's talking about and they really want to be, and really want to like and want to play, but it just does too much of that stuff for them that they don't. I think that's more the thing is, like, like, when it comes to multiplayer games, like, usually what you're getting into, right? Like, with a multiplayer game, that, like, it's gonna be, you know, whatever the genre of the game is, it's going to be that, and it's going to be just you constantly going in and playing, you know, playing with other people. And like, you know, I think people kind of just expect that, but there's so many different ways that a single player game can go about doing what it's intending to do, right? And you're not always gonna know just by looking at a game, at a single player game,
Yes.
what kind of time, you know, that's gonna entail to finish it, and you know how much grind there's gonna be in it. And you know, like, I think it's just, you know, we don't hear people complain about multiplayer games too much, because either a lot of people just don't care about multiplayer games, and so we won't hear anything from them because they don't care. And then two, the people who do play multiplayer games, they know what they're getting into, you know, every time. It's always the same. It's just, and like I said, a lot of times it's, you know, it's more of a social thing, and so the game doesn't really matter what they're playing. I mean, if you know, they obviously you want to have fun doing whatever you're doing, but you're more worried about the social interactions you're having.
And you know, and I think that's why when it comes to and then we'll get back to what we've been playing. The last thing I'll say is I think that's what when it comes to game of the year and stuff, that it's kind of hard
Yeah,
nowadays to put a looter shooter on the list than a single player game. Because I literally feel that there should be two game of the year lists now. Anything that's a continuation of a game that should have its own game of the year list. None of those games should be on in anything that is single player. Among
yeah,
Us does not belong on a single player game of the year. It needs to be on something else. Because the thing about it is that it's unfair to combine them, and every year you're nominating or you're giving that particular game the same thing just because they got some new content. I feel like, to me personally, that's unfair. Where there's all these other experiences that you need to that people should go out and try, but they don't because they stick to that other game. And so I completely, and a lot of people might disagree with me, but I feel like if you're going to do game of the year list, separate them. Don't have anything that you've been playing for years needs to be on a whole nother list. If we're gonna do a certain type of game of the year, it needs to be 30 some games that is single player that you have played. It should be brand new, or it should be something in your backlog that you literally got to, and it's literally single player. It has a ending, it has a beginning, a middle, and an end, or maybe a cliffhanger or a DLC or whatever that is the game or something.
yeah,
Anything that's been out for years that is still going just because it got new content does not to be on the list. Put that on a different game of the year,
yeah.
and
I
that may
mean,
be and that may,
well, that are just. I think that that's kind of like where our ongoing games award, like best ongoing game
and there should be game
award thing is fine, you know, like,
right.
but
And I think
yeah, I think,
I
yeah, like whatever games came out that year should be the only thing. And yeah, and I agree, but you know, we've personally, like, for Boss Rush and stuff, we've had to do things like so differently, and honestly, it's never really been. I don't really like calling what we do a game of the year, even because
well
because to me it's more of a celebration for us of
it
gaming. Like,
is
you know, like
it
we want to talk about
it
the games that have come out
that
that year and stuff,
right
but
and it
at the same
is.
time we don't get to as many games
And
and
that's
stuff.
and I think that's and I think, and like I said, we're gonna get back to the day, and that's why I feel like when you do a game of the year, when you know that you got to do a game of the year list, you should at least play 4 games
Yeah,
in different genres. Whether you complete them or not, you should be able to play 4 games, and out of those 4, maybe 2 or 3 should be on part of your nomination. Because the thing about, because it feels kind of weird that someone would say something about what you've been playing, or there's a big discussion when they haven't experienced enough games to play. and I'm not trying to make this about me or anything, but it's
Mhm.
just like if I've owned 3 consoles and I played about 20 games per console, I have a choice of 60 games that I may have loved, or I may be like, okay, I'm not feeling it, but it really did something, and I give my reason. No one
Mhm.
should be able to say, why did you choose that game? I'm like, because I played it. If
Mhm.
I play 60 games, it shouldn't. I'm not saying it shouldn't go against what you put in play, but I feel like if I play 60 games, you should at least play
Mhm.
or 10, because
Mhm.
you have 12 months to play games and stuff.
Mhm.
Regardless of what time that you have, if you spend enough time that could be played on other games, playing one particular game, that's kind of be like, you know what? I like the fact that he made he or she made that choice, and they got to experience because they have enough
Mhm.
reason to say why they played that game.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I completely get it. I mean, and yeah, there's a lot of stuff that goes on. I mean, you hear about, reviews being written after they've only played like a quarter of the game or
Right.
whatever, stuff like that. But all right, yeah, so back to what we've been playing. Like I said, yeah, I played Village and I'm enjoying it. It definitely does remind me a lot of Resident Evil 4. The beginning part is very similar. Um,
Is it in
but
chapters or is it just like connected? Everything is connected.
I don't know because I like I said I'm only a couple of hours in, so I'm honestly just getting really getting into the beginning of it because um yeah, like I just got to the part of where you kind of meet the woman that that everyone is obsessed with.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I just got to the part of where you see her and her daughters and all that stuff. Um, but oh man, that game it's good, but man, is it brutal? It's so violent and gory. But
Yeah.
I
I,
I'm enjoying it though so far. I'm enjoying it a lot. It's uh it's definitely different though. So
okay.
so what
Well,
what have you been playing?
so Monster Hunter Rise, Dread, Near Replicant. I actually started up Resident Evil 6 on Xbox.
You're
Uh,
not the only one. I don't know why. For some reason, people have been like going back to that one.
I've never got a chance to play. I bought
Oh,
it.
okay.
I bought it when it was on a good sale, which is weird because I have like half of the Resident Evil series on my PS4 and part of it on Xbox One, and I'm
Mhm.
kind of tempted to buy it on Switch and stuff. Um,
Yeah.
and just because 6, I beat 5. I skipped 6 because they said it wasn't good, and then I jumped to 7, and I still haven't got 8 yet. So I do have remake 2 and 3, which I need to. I think I'm just gonna sit down and like really go through those games.
Yeah.
Um, I know we just had that the conversation. I am um I did the first part with Leon and the other person. But I'm going to start the game with Chris and I guess another person, or Pierre, I think that's his name or something. And so I'm going to go through all 3 of their stories and see what it's all about. So I think I'm gonna focus more on that. I'm trying to do kind of like one game per system because my Son of Rise is just so good, but there's so much coming out, and I know Mass Effect is dropping this week, this Friday,
Hmm.
which I think I'm doing Xbox One. I thought I was gonna do PS4, but I think I'm doing Xbox One for it. So when I get my Series X, it could be high res and all of that goofiness. And all I know is that I do want to try and see what it does have to offer for part one. And then I Thursday, after this, like you guys will see or hear this recording, I still got to buy the Famicom Detective Club. That's the game, like detective game that's coming out for Switch. I need to get it before it actually drops and stuff. And I can't wait to play that one. So I'm excited to play that. So yeah, but Resident Evil 6 is kind of what I'm focusing now on Xbox One. I did download some of the Xbox games for Gold stuff,
Hmm.
and Cyberpunk I just put to the side. I would just wait for that. I think I'm going to. I think wanted
Yeah,
to
because
beat that.
you've still got a, or no, you've got an S now, don't you?
Yeah, I have
Xbox
the
Series
S.
or Xbox One S, I mean.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And I just feel, and even if I think if I played it on the next gen, I think it's just kind of a boring game in a sense. Like
Yeah.
there's something
Yeah.
about it that's just like I'm not feeling this, and it may be because it may because it they thought they could promise a lot and offer a lot, and it feels like what they offering is not enough or not good. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's one of those things too where it's really like you've got to really be like really into that genre of,
Mhm.
like that cyberpunk stuff. I'm not really in, I don't really know, other than, well, even I'll be honest, like I liked what's the movie with the 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 famous movie that was,
Ghost in the Shell.
no, the cyberpunk, like one with here is Harrison Ford in it, I think.
Oh,
Why am I blanking on it?
uh,
Blade Runner.
Blade Runner. Yeah.
Yeah, like Blade Runner, like I watched that movie and it was fine, but like it didn't really I'll be honest, it didn't do a whole lot for me. Like I didn't find that movie as interesting or great as most people do. So, there's that part of me because I really do like the aesthetic of cyberpunk
Hmm.
and like, the whole futuristic, that's more my sci-fi side of my likings, but I think it's just certain storylines. It's just got to really be interesting to me, or otherwise, like I loved the first Matrix. Like I loved that movie. I thought that was a great movie, and I honestly didn't even mind the last two Matrix movies. I know a lot of people don't care for those as much as the first one, but I don't know. I think it's just kind of hit or miss for me, and I kind of had you know, there was that thought that that's how Cyberpunk was going to be, that it might not, end up being something I end up liking, but again, I haven't really gotten a chance to give it a try yet. Maybe one of these days, once I'm done with some of the games I'm playing right now,
Yeah.
I'll go to it eventually once it gets the Series X update and stuff like that. But until then, yeah, I just kind of put it aside too, and just kind of left it as something that I can go back to. Kind of like Red Dead Redemption 2 is kind of in the same boat for me.
Can you know what I've been wanting? Because Ray Apollo's been talking about it. I'm like, dang, I might want to jump back into uh
To Red
jump
Dead.
it to Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah.
I think I'm kind of almost on the third part, but I need to just pop it in and just go forth and be like, I
Yeah.
don't care as many times that I die, I'm not starting this game over for no apparent reason. I do not want to slush through all of that nonsense that I had to get to
Hmm.
where I'm at. So I would rather just continue on, figure it out, and then go from there.
Yeah, because for right now, yeah, I want to try to finish Resident Evil 8 Village, and I want to try to finish finally Until
Oh,
Dawn and The Last Guardian.
yeah, yeah, I need to return back to Until Dawn. I can't wait for you to I want to nerd out with you with The Last Guardian. I want to see what you feel after that.
I
I know the control thing, but
Yeah,
I'm like
but I really do, I do really love like what it's doing so far. Like
right.
yeah, I
And
mean,
I
and if the story is good enough, I can look past controls, like,
yeah, that's what I want to talk about. It's like the
because
story and
like,
the emotions and stuff like
yeah,
that.
because it's the same with Resident Evil 4. I mean, like, I really like that story and everything, but like, and I could look past the controls enough to enjoy the story. You know, as a whole, the game, like, it is what it is, but like, you know, like, when we've said this multiple times, like, I jokingly over exaggerate that I hate that game. Not real. It's just me getting under Ed's skin. But yeah, because like I do like the Resident Evil story, and I do want to experience it in VR. I want to experience it in VR, so I want to get a Quest 2 literally just so I can get Resident Evil 4 VR.
What and the thing about it's just like it's I think with me was just like how could you go with the controls of Gears of War but not the controls of Resident Evil where that's kind of where
Yeah.
Gears of War came
Well,
from. It's one of
yeah.
those
Well,
things.
no, and like even before that, like one of my favorite games on PS1 was Fade to Black. And Fade to Black's controls are almost exactly like Resident Evil 4's. Like you have to stop and then you aim and you turn around. You can't move while you're turning around aiming to where you're going to shoot, you know, and it's a third person, you know, shooter.
Mhm.
Fade to Black, and you know, and that came out like a long time ago. It's like one of the first 3D shooters. I feel
Yeah.
like, you know, like around when Resident Evil and stuff came out. But
Yeah, and we're gonna get into news. My
yeah.
last thing is I'm actually playing Metroid on
Oh,
Switch
okay.
Online because I've never
Okay.
got to beat all of Metroid
Yeah.
and
Super
everything.
Metroid or whatever,
No, the first
or
one,
just the regular one.
the
Oh, okay.
NES
Yeah.
one. So I'm
Okay.
making my way through that. Thank God for this rewind, this rewind feature because this game is challenging. But
Yeah.
I am definitely enjoyed it.
Nice. Nice. All right. Yeah. Let's get into the Arsa news or the Arsenal news. So the first thing that we have here is, and this is pretty cool. So a lot of people had trouble with Outriders, and their inventories getting wiped, and you know, there's just been multiple issues with, well, honestly, a few big games this year have been having some issues. But yeah, Outriders, they're fixed. They've fixed the inventory wipe stuff, and yeah, and I believe that they're working on that, and that's you know, releasing that and stuff. And so they're I believe they're actually like giving. I think they might be here. Why is it not opening? Thought I read that they're like literally giving people stuff to make up for it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, restored. Okay, so it says Outriders Rocky launch will have their inventory restored over the next day or so. So anything that you lost in the wipe, and it says up to 20 legendary items will be restored to player inventories, provided they lost a legendary item between launch and April 20th. Players have been split into 3 categories. A, B, and C players in Group A have already had their inventories restored, and that includes all items regardless of rarity that were equipped at the time of the inventory wipe. Those identified by people can fly as Group B will have legendaries restored to them over the next few days. However, People Can Fly's system cannot conclusively distinguish Group B and Group C players. The latter, being players who did not experience inventory wipes. Because of this, even if you didn't lose a legendary item, this restoration may add up to 20 legendaries to your inventory. So people who, I think, so if I'm understanding that right, they're just kind of just giving people legendaries and stuff like that. I don't
Yeah.
know if it's going to be exactly only exactly what you've gotten, or um, but yeah, I mean, like that. It's a bummer, obviously when any game has issues, but like, I really like Outriders, and well, in any of these games, like Returnal 2 has been having issues, and like you always want them to be fixed and be able to do well, because like, like I would like to someday play a Returnal, and I hope they can get things fixed, and for a lot of these games, and it's just good to see that that they're trying to do something, because they could very easily, like, have a company that's just like, yeah, we really can't do anything about it, and then just not do anything and just be like, oh well. But I'm glad that they're trying to spend the time to fix what's been broken and stuff. But
Yeah, because
so yeah,
Outriders, yeah, I think Outriders for PC was having a lot of problems, like with servers. This is kind of the first time that I'm hearing that a lot of stuff got wiped or anything. Because I haven't
yeah,
heard of anybody console wise say anything about it. I think it was just a server issue that people was
yeah,
having.
yeah. I think what was happening was, it was probably like, I don't know if the game crashes and you
Hmm.
got something and didn't save it. Like if you're in the middle of like a run and you didn't get to a checkpoint or something.
Yeah,
I don't quite know for sure exactly,
but
because yeah, I haven't experienced any of that obviously either. So
yeah, because there was some people. There might have been some crashes. The server problem was that people just couldn't get on, and I
yeah,
think, some people had to uninstall the game and then put it in. And I think the right thing maybe because of the cloud problem. People were
yeah,
having problems with cloud not
yeah,
recognizing their game, so they had to start over and
yeah,
everything. So
yeah. That's
that
probably
that
what it was. Yeah,
yeah, that may have been the issue. But it's good that let people go through this whole gang with those legendaries, and hopefully they don't nerf them or anything. But it's good that they're doing their best to make it up.
yeah,
From
because yeah, and we obviously we want games, and of matter what console they're on, we want games to succeed, and and be fun, and stuff like that. So yeah, it's
and that's why, and not to bring Nintendo up, that's why Nintendo would delay a game and make sure that this stuff is polished before they
yeah,
release it, because they don't want any of this. I mean, they'll still do
yeah,
patches and updates and stuff,
yeah,
but they don't want any of this at all.
yeah. All right, and so then the next thing, Ed, you had a piece about Fable that you were going to talk about.
Yeah, so this one is coming from Game Informer that the new Fable will use Forza's game engine, and it seems that they're going to be making it like a customizable one for Fable game. It's called Forza Tech. That's what Playground uses for the Forza games, and every time they come up with the game, they tweak it. So that's why the games look beautiful and play so well, is
Yeah,
because they're tweaking their engine. So they're going to be doing the same thing for Fable. And right now, at this time, they're hiring software engineers to come in and help them not only make the engine for Motorsport and for Horizon for the next game, but also for Fable. So it's
yeah,
good that they're using their own engine and everything. And
yeah,
the Playground is probably going to be helping the team who's making Fable uh be able to make this game when it comes out, that it runs on the engine perfectly and it looks really good and everything. And it's good to see that this is happening, and definitely this saves money
yeah,
for Microsoft, because at this time I think it's it may be only Gears, um the coalition. I think they're the only ones that's using Unreal. I think everybody else is using their own engine. um No, no,
Um,
no, because Hellblade 2 is
Hellblade.
using the
Yeah,
Unreal Engine 5,
yeah, yeah,
but it could, like, if, and I don't know what Halo Infinite's using. I think they may be using their own, but like after Hellblade, maybe the Force Attack or maybe one of their engines become the thing. Because like Sony, in a sense, like Guerrilla Games, their engine is so good that may be used for all of their stuff. And Nintendo, they have their own engine, but they're doing things with Unreal Engine 4 that you didn't expect, which is weird for Nintendo to actually use Unreal.
yeah,
So we'll see what happens in the future. Maybe Microsoft will have some games that use Unreal Engine 5, depending on the developer, and there may be some games, studios at Microsoft that may use their own engine. So, but it's good
yeah,
to see what Fable could look like, and Forza Horizon 4 still looks beautiful, dude.
yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
you was talking about it on the Series X, it looks like mind blowing good.
yeah, and well, and one of the things, that people have been talking about, because we kind of had a feeling that they were going to use some form of of that engine to make
Mhm.
it. But one of the things that means, and that engine does really well is the like live weather stuff. And so, like, we've people have been talking and kind of been excited for the idea of like a Fable game where the weather can, just kind of has its own weather patterns, and you could be doing like uh mission or whatever one day, and it, be sunny for someone, or your friend could be playing that same exact mission and it be raining or dark out, when they're doing that mission. And just kind of have that difference in weather patterns and stuff that can make stuff feel like a different experience, even though you may be doing the same exact thing. Like, stuff like that will be interesting to see, if they try to bake that stuff into the game quite a bit. Because like the rain and storms and things like that, and Forza Horizon 4, like that was a big part of that game, is having the different seasons and stuff like that, where you could be playing on a level and it be the frozen water version of it, where you're literally driving across frozen water, but you can't play that track the same during the spring or fall because it's that water isn't frozen over, so you can't drive over it. And
Yeah.
like just different things like that. Like, yeah, it would be kind of neat to just play a game where it can like just be different weather, and your experiences might be different depending on what time of the day and in reality you're playing it.
Yes.
Like, it would be kind of cool if it went by the clock of by the world clock, or by your the time in your region of where you're playing it. Like, if in the game it could be like be similar to, didn't they do that on Animal Crossing,
Yeah,
where
I think
like if
so.
you played at night it would literally be nighttime in the game as well,
Yeah.
stuff like that. Like, I could see them doing something like that with it, even, just having it where depending on what time of the day you play, it could be the same time in the
Well,
game.
Fable does that in the original games, but I get what you're saying. The time clock that's on the system reflects the time clock in the game. So yeah, I could see that, and seeing what they do it with the Force Attack engine. I'll be excited to see. I can't wait to see what this game is going to turn out and look like. And
Yeah,
possibility we may see it at E3. It's good
yeah.
that we're getting some information now out from Microsoft about some of their first party games. So
hmm
we just now gotta wait to see E3.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. I think they're kind of holding their cards a little bit here. They don't want to release too much information, but give people just enough information that they're not ignoring it, and not making people completely wait to hear anything about their games.
Yes.
I feel like they've been doing a good job of that this year, of just trying to release little bits and pieces of information for stuff, but still, still holding back, for a bigger event. But
Yes.
all right, so the next thing, and I'm sure you've heard a lot of people talk about this, but it's an amazing thing, and I hope it's going to continue. But and this article I got from The Verge. But Microsoft added FPS boosts for 74 more games on Xbox Series X and S. Like once I had heard about this and everything, one of the first things I did is I went and I downloaded Far Cry 5 on my Series X, because that's one of the games that got a boost. So instead of it running at 30, it runs at 60 frames per second in in your 4K resolutions and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But you can also up it to 120 frames per second. All these games as well. Yeah, and some of them are like Assassin's Creed Unity, Deus Ex, Mankind Divided, Wasteland 3, and then Far Cry 5. All games moving to 60 frames per second. It's just really cool. I think also the update comes weeks after Microsoft, added the FPS boost for 13 EA games. Now, and remember, like, this is all internal. Like, Microsoft is putting in all the work to do this. Like, they're the ones, like, fixing or, like, making these boosts happen. It has nothing to do with the actual, the companies
Developers
who made the games. This is because of some of the tech that's in the new Xboxes, that they're able to do a lot of this without having to mess around with coding and stuff like that. And so it's pretty interesting, and I could see them like doing more and more, kind of like when we were getting back, like the getting games added to the to the service that the backlog or the
backwards compatibility.
Backwards compatibility stuff. Like, I could see this being a continuous thing, because they've got a whole group of people tech people who are just focused on these kinds of things. So
you pretty much don't have no choice at this time. You gotta get the stuff out, because you don't have any games dedicated exclusively to Series X or S. Series X.
Well,
and
they
S.
do, but they're getting finished.
Right, and the thing about it is to keep people to understand why they made the purchase for the system. Is not for future proofing, games that's going to be coming to the system or anything. But you want to keep people like really experiencing and playing that system. Keep people in your ecosystem. So at this moment
want
in time,
to be the best experience that you can get. Now,
and
experience games that have came out already and new games.
I really don't want to go there, so I won't say that much. I think it's a good thing that they're doing this. I just, I guess it gets people to actually check out some of their past games and everything. But yeah.
Well, and it just gives people an opportunity who, games that they loved last generation or prior, like if they want to be able to play a better version of that without having to fork out a whole nother $60 for a remastered version or like we see many times, it's just essentially a little bit of an upgraded version of it, and then they end up charging you for a whole brand new game again.
Mhm.
And it's like, whereas they're just saying, hey, you remember you bought that game? Well, now you can play it, and it's going to look better, it's going to run better, and we're not charging you anything, for that experience to get upgraded. If you get our new
The performance
console.
is better.
Yeah, everything about it ends up, running and looking better, and they're not charging you, anything for it. It's just Microsoft doing it to try to make the experience on the new
But
consoles.
and that's why I said making people feel like they are getting something out of their system, because like right
Yeah,
now,
yeah,
like right now, you really don't need a Series X or S. Only reason for new experiences, new games that's coming out for the system, because there's not really anything dedicated yet until later on where more games will
well,
roll out.
yeah,
Like
I mean,
Hellblade,
they've
Fable,
had,
Forza,
yeah,
like a lot of the first party stuff and more the third party, like actually
yeah,
making for it and everything. It's
yeah,
just
and
like
that's
right
for
now
both.
there's a
Yeah,
right
and
now,
that's for both consoles. Like in
yeah,
both consoles.
consoles, yeah.
Yeah.
to
So
to
yeah, I
fill
mean,
the right to fill the gap with this fill to fill up this gap or fill this void, putting out these updated patches and boost performance for these old games will keep people playing, coming back to the system, turning on and playing
yeah,
instead of it collecting dust. Actually, me and Crossroads, once again talking about Crossroads, I think we talked about this off air before we recorded, where I kind of was saying that, you know, if we didn't have the pandemic, I think Series X and PlayStation 5 would be rolling like Nintendo was rolling in 2017 with the Switch. How they had a big major game coming out almost every month.
yeah,
But I think because of the stuff that's happening, they had to push a lot of that back. But I think that probably would have been happening to these systems and stuff.
yeah, yeah. I think I think that it dampened their progression,
Mm.
their forward progress quite a bit, and and it wrecked a lot of plans, I'm sure, but yeah, I mean, at the same time, like, honestly, I feel like a lot of people have been buying, like, and I didn't really add that too much in here, but like, the Microsoft had released sales and things like that, and their gaming revenue for Microsoft and all that, their sales and stuff had went up like 200%. That including, like, sales of consoles and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But I think the thing is a lot of people, it's Microsoft's Game Pass and stuff like that is getting into a lot of the mind share. And right now, like, yeah, you can literally buy an older Xbox or whatever and still play a lot of the great stuff that's coming out,
Yeah.
and still, have a lot of great stuff in Game Pass that you may have missed. Like, that's the thing, is there's a lot of people online that I've, over the last year even, that have been buying Xboxes, like, because they, the Game Pass stuff, and like being able to have like services that they feel like, they're actually getting their money's worth out of, with Game Pass and stuff like that. And so it's, that's been bringing a lot of people in. So honestly, it doesn't surprise me that their sales and stuff are up. And, and like, as far as the console, next gen console sales, or this gen, we technically should call it now. Like, like, both them and Sony are both like, can't keep, consoles in stock, because they're being bought the second that they're available. So
Hmm.
both consoles right now, like, it's hard to tell, but they're both selling really well, and there's, definitely a lot of demand for both of them. A lot of people trying to get both of them.
Where Nintendo was just dominated regardless. you know.
Yeah, but they've also been out way longer. That's you know, we'll see how things go when the Switch Pro comes out. But you know, like they might have to wait though. They might have to wait with the Switch Pro until you know, because I mean, if there's still going to be a lot of people who are going to be trying to get PlayStation 5s and Xboxes, and there's a lot of people who are going to buy that over the Switch at first, you know, because they want to be able to get that premium, you know, like next gen like experience.
But like I said, I'm just like, at this time, next gen is having its problems because there's like nothing dedicated yet. Yeah. And you know, you can say the same thing with Nintendo with a lot of their ports, but I'm like, they do got some new IPs and stuff out there. So I think Nintendo has such a mixture of bag right now for the Switch, where Microsoft and PlayStation, Microsoft and Sony, they're still gearing up and they're going to be ready to go. If it doesn't happen at the end of this year, definitely by next year. You know, I think all three will be ready to go. Stuff.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is a lot of the beginning of this is going to start at the end of this year.
Yeah,
but it's really within the next year or so that things are really going to ramp up. But it's just a matter of them trying to get back on, you know, everyone trying to get back into their routine and on their feet.
Yes,
and like you said, you know, like people need to still be opening back up for manufacturing and stuff like that, and you know, and things, and people, you know, like potentially here going back to offices and stuff to work on video games, because you know, like, unless you're used to working, you know, like one of the things that Nintendo has always been really, really good at is working as a team, you know, in the same, you know, in the same rooms and all that kind of stuff. And there was a lot of hardship, you know, like when Nintendo couldn't really do stuff, you know, like the developers and stuff couldn't work together in the same room and had to do it from work. That's just not the way that they do it in their culture. And there was talks of that being very difficult for a lot of those people that worked for Nintendo and stuff. But it's this FPS stuff though, like
it's
the
really
boosts,
cool.
like I'm excited, and you know, and like I look at it this way, like, you know, and it is what it is. I mean, obviously as a business, you pick and choose what you find is you think is going to work for your business, and you know, and all that. And you know, Sony doesn't really care too much about backwards compatibility stuff. But I think the main thing about this to remember is, I think a lot of the people that are at Microsoft that are doing this stuff and this backwards compatibility doesn't necessarily come from a vision of like, oh, you know, like, well, we, you know, this is something we want to have over everyone else.
Yeah.
Because anyone could have chose to do this, right? Like, I mean, they chose to do that. Sony could have chose to work on trying to do something to have backwards compatibility. Like, that was their choice to not do that. But a lot of stuff we see, you know, disappearing, and this need to preserve old games and stuff like that, because now things are going digital. It's not like when you could just get a physical copy of something and you didn't need an internet connection to update it or make it work. You know, like we can go right now to a store and you can buy a PlayStation 1 game and you can stick it in your PS2 and you can play it. Like, it's always going to be available. But with things going more digital, and you know, there's not quite that same playability where you can just put a game from the store into your console and play it. You have to have an internet connection, or you have to do this. You know, there's little barriers. So
it's not
this is more.
It's not even having. Yeah, it's not even having the internet connection. It's actually having the license.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
because you can have an internet connection, but if you don't got the license to that game, you can't play nothing.
yeah. So so Microsoft is essentially trying to preserve this game and make it be available to be able to play no matter what. But they're also doing something a little special and letting us have these games running even better than they originally did,
Yes.
which no one's going to complain about, because it's not really taken away from the integrity of the game or making it a different game. It's still the same game. It's just looking better.
Yeah.
Nothing has changed about it on a coding level or whatever.
Yes.
So yeah, it's all about that game preservation, and there's a lot of people who are very, very, very much worried about game preservation, and unless companies like Microsoft do what they're doing, those games won't be preserved because it doesn't matter. Like if some of those games just moving forward, you'd have to buy a new console, and if you have things like what's happened with the PSP store, and like they've kind of rolled back some of that, closing down the stores, but I mean that still can happen. They can still shut down stores or or servers or whatever for games, and that they won't exist anymore. But if someone like Microsoft says, hey, we're putting in the time and trying to preserve this game and make it still very reliable and very relevant, like there's a much better chance that servers will stay open, or or people, the number of people playing those games will continue, because it's accessible, and it's just there for you to be able to play and stuff.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, there's a lot more to that, to it than just, I feel like a lot of times than just be having something backwards compatible. I think it's a passion project. I think a lot of these guys that are doing this, like they realize the game preservation is going to be was going to be a more difficult thing in a digital age, and so they had to figure out how they could do it, and then just have these little caveats where the new hardware is giving them fun options to make those games not only still be able to be played, but to look and play better than they originally did. So yeah. So, and then, all right. So the next thing, this has kind of been a little bit of a talking topic recently, because there was talk of, I think it was the Microsoft store, that they wanted to cut the revenue, or the revenue shares that the company itself takes from a sale of a game on their store. And I think they're cutting it down to only taking like 12% or something like that of the revenue, versus I think it used to be like 30% or something like that.
Yeah.
And so there's been talk about them, and this is from an IGN story, but that Xbox may also increase the revenue shares by 18% for developers. So essentially, Microsoft on the Xbox side store may also be cutting that as well, and giving the developers more of that share to essentially entice more developers to develop their games on their console, so they can get a much nicer looking percentage of the sales. So
well, it's not that's part of it, and I think it's also in case if a game doesn't sell so well, that they are recouping some of the losses from development. I think that's the biggest thing, is that you don't have to sell major to make money back to recover the cost and everything.
I do think, and I don't have like this in front of me. That, you know what? Maybe I'll just save it and talk about this later, when I actually have some information. But I know some stores and things have made certain kind of rules where I think it's Steam. I think Steam does where you have to make that they don't take they take a very low amount of the percentage of what your game makes until you've actually recouped your money. So they don't take a lot from you. They want you to be able to make sure that you actually get the money you spent on making that game back first, and then they'll worry about taking a percentage. I don't know if there's anything like that Microsoft's doing. But
I think it changed because at a point, then this is why Epic made it where that when you buy a game off the Epic store, the developers make more than what Epic does. Because Steam was taking, I think it was a 60-40 or 70-30 split. It was something like that. Steam was taking a bigger cut than what the developers were supposed to get. So that's why when they were bringing those games to Switch and they were selling so well, more than the Steam one, they were making more money off of Nintendo than they were at Steam because of the deal that they had. And stuff. So seeing Microsoft,
I know there's...
go ahead. Jesse. Seeing Microsoft do this is kind of just like, okay, if you guys still put your game on Steam and they're still taking a bigger cut for you guys not to make money, put your game also on our system on console or PC or like Windows 10, and you guys will get more of a benefit of the money to recoup the cost and stuff. Then we'll get our money no matter what, but we'll make sure that you guys are satisfied first. That way, you are still able to put out games.
Yeah, and this honestly, this only makes sense with kind of the way that Microsoft has been going about things lately. Like there was, I had also read too about some documents that had shown like where. There was people talking around, like Microsoft had already been talking about the free-to-play games being free to play without, Xbox Live Gold and stuff like that for a while. They're kind of in a process where there's so many things that they're trying to work on. They're trying to, work through the pandemic and make sure that their, games and stuff are getting out. They're trying to work on, like getting their services, promoted properly and making sure everything's running on that end. So it's like, I feel like this is, like some of the things that have probably been in the process and something they've been wanting to do.
Yes.
In the changing of this ship that they've been, having to kind of redirect for quite a few years now. That they're, that slowly these things are rolling out in this more positive, side of Microsoft and Xbox that we're kind of, have been seeing here, where they're trying to do right by everyone.
Yeah.
Make sure that they're making their money and stuff, and taking care of those developers. Yeah, just making sure that they're taking honestly care of everyone who's stuck with them,
Yes.
Like, and new people who do want to come in, who maybe, had a bad experience in the old Xbox during like 360 and era and stuff like that, where they just, like they felt like they've been wronged. And I feel like the new Microsoft is just trying to get it across to them that they have changed and they're trying to do right by everyone, and these are just slowly things that are rolling out to, try to prove that they're changing their ways,
Like we said, Phil Spencer has been making some good business moves, and he really I think, like I said, he's really been helping Microsoft lead the ship with Series X or just the Xbox brand in
Yeah,
general. Like he's really doing a lot, and and not saying he deserves praise, but he deserves props for it, and he deserves respect. And
yeah,
seeing that he is really working hard to make sure that the Xbox brand is for everybody, is like really
yeah. I
giving
mean,
you the quality.
yeah, and I mean, like it's
I like his hustle. I can't knock
you,
his hustle.
this is the thing. Yeah, it was all fun and games, there for a while with, it's been a long time that the console wars was a thing.
Hmm.
But like, more and more people just don't really like that negativity and stuff that comes with the whole console war stuff, and why, like, like people should just be able to play what they want, when they want, how they want,
Yes.
and like that's another thing too, is like, there was that story about that leaked of the because of some of the stuff that was going on where they Microsoft had did an internal review of The Last of Us, and they had a whole review written up for The Last of Us and talked about it and how it was like such an untouchable, like, amazing game. And but they did say, yeah, like the shooting and the mechanics and stuff like that weren't as good, as they
Yes.
would have liked, but they really praised the game and said that it was like a masterpiece, and all this and that, and like, and which doesn't surprise me now. Like you see whenever Microsoft comes out and does stuff, whether it be Phil Spencer or whoever, when what a lot of times lately we see them come out and they'll say, like, like when they list the big achievements in the world, they're more than happy to celebrate what Nintendo has done, and their achievements, and what they'll voice Sony and their achievements that they've done. Like, they're trying to be super positive and just set an experience where people can just come and love games even if you don't want to play on an Xbox.
Yeah.
You don't have to. And that's kind of what they've been saying for a while, is like, we don't care how you play the games. We just want you to play games, because in turn that makes developers happy, that their artwork is being experienced, and games as a whole has gotten us through this whole pandemic for the most part.
Hmm.
I mean, it's been a massive part of coping with having to be stuck in the house and stuff like that for a
Yeah.
lot of people. So it's saved a lot of people's sanity over
Exactly.
the last couple of years. So it's just really good to see that kind of positivity coming from a company. Like, yeah, I'm sure some of it is all uh corporate speak and stuff like that, but I do think that a lot of the stuff that Phil Spencer talks about, and a lot of those guys that are running the Xbox stuff, like, that they genuinely do actually respect and care about the things that they're doing, because otherwise, why would you have that job? Because I mean, when things got rough and dirty and tough, being working for Microsoft, that couldn't have been fun.
Exactly.
Like, you really would have to need like a real respect and interest in what you're doing to be in that position that Phil Spencer took over, when it was just like really down in the dumps, and the like everyone's favorite thing to just dog on, for a long time there. Um, so yeah, it's just really good to see, things changing overall. I mean, all the companies, like, slowly things are changing, and that's always how things happen, though. It always is a slow change, but the progress that we can see, like, I'm really looking forward to this generation of
Yes.
gaming. We've already got a lot of great things that are coming out, right now in this month, still some other good games that are coming out, like Biomutant comes out yet, later this month, and there's just a lot of good stuff to look forward to this year still, but I can't wait for E3. I don't know about you, but I'm just I can't wait any longer. I just want to hear about stuff.
We're all waiting for E3.
Yeah. I feel like some of us have probably been ready for a couple of months already, but
yeah.
So we gotta. And speaking of that, we've got to kind of, we'll probably internally here we're gonna talk about, whether we're gonna try to communicate and plan one whole week where every show that week will be talking about their E3 stuff. And stuff like that, getting closer. So then when you guys consume, if you decide to consume our content for all of our different shows that week, it'll be like an E3 week is how I would like to envision it. Like, hopefully we can make that work where it's like this week is, E3 prediction weeks on all the shows. So like if you want to go over to Crossroads and see what what they're talking about and what their predictions are for E3, and you can go over that week. And I don't know for sure how everything's gonna work, but I wanted to see if we can try to figure something like that out.
We're getting things ready. We're getting things ready and planned. So just keep to check boshbushgames.com and for more info. Yeah. And check us out on our Discord channel. That way you guys will be up on the up and up to know what we're all discussing about with E3.
Yeah. All right. So for the extra content today, this is kind of something we kind of figured and stuff, but there's a little bit of information here that I just want to kind of talk about. So Halo Infinite cross-play and cross-progression across Xbox One, Xbox Series S and X, and PC. And so, you will be able to play with friends no matter what Xbox they're on. And you can play, if you, let's say in the living room, you got Halo on your Xbox One X, and you play there, and then later on you want to continue playing, but you want to play on your computer, then you can hop over on your computer and take off from where you left off on your Xbox, or you can then jump from your PC if you want to go play somewhere else on your Series X, then you can take off, from there. So yeah, that's kind of something we have expected to have. But what was kind of interesting and cool is they're going to make a lot of the popular PC features that you normally would only get when you play a game on PC. They're going to try to bringing some of that stuff to the console now as well. So things like ultra wide screen and super ultra wide screen support, triple key binds, advanced graphics options, and more, it says. So yeah, it's gonna be very much like a PC experience for Halo Infinite, no matter what you're playing on. Now, yeah. I imagine that's mostly probably for Series X. I don't know if the ultra wide screen and all that is going to be something that will be on the Xbox One version as well. But yeah, so I mean, essentially, regardless, they want to give people the option of how they want to play this game. Mm-hmm. If you want to play it on keyboard and mouse on your Xbox, you'll be able to do that. So yeah, that was just kind of a little cool information, and just kind of I personally think that this is just going to be the beginning of what we can expect on this generation. I think we are going to see a lot of PC like features coming to these games because they are much, they have a lot of power in them. Yes, I mean the power is outdated by the new graphics cards, but still, I mean the power in the stuff that's inside these new consoles is still pretty powerful, and and still a lot of PCs and stuff have been using some of this tech, and there's a lot to be experienced yet from what's inside these consoles. There's still a lot that they really haven't even used yet that's built inside. So yeah, it's gonna be. I think it's just gonna be a fun generation. I think we're gonna have a lot of fun things to look forward to. And I truly do hope that Xbox and Sony can throw punches, like as far as sales and stuff go, like just be right neck and neck with things, trying to constantly compete, because ultimately that makes things better. So
yes.
So yeah, so that is it for the extra content. So, and yeah, Halo Infinite, it won't be too long, and we'll be talking more about that, I'm sure. So I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot more at E3. So
E3, yeah.
I can almost guarantee it. So
probably, I think that'll be the game that closes out Microsoft's press conference. I mean,
yeah,
it's just smart to do it that way.
I think Hellblade.
Oh, bless you.
I think Hellblade's going to be a very big feature as well at E3. Yeah, I've got a lot of things I've been predicting and talking about lately, but yeah. So, all right. So yeah, that ends the show. So Ed, where can we find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at ThatBretcherCode. Check out Nintendo Podblog on BossPushGames.com. Check out Optional Opinion, my podcast, on SoundCloud and other podcast apps, and World 11 Pod on Podbean.com. Nice. Oh, and if you guys want to follow me on Xbox, I am the Lyrical One. So come be my friend. Come, let's play games. Let's talk. Let's hang out.
Yeah. And you can find me almost everywhere as Phantom NXS. That's including Xbox Live and PSN now.
Oh, I forgot. I don't think I said that. You can find me on Twitter at ThatRetroCode. I don't think I said that.
Yeah. So yeah, you can basically find me everywhere as Phantom NXS. I just tried to keep it all the same as much as possible. So to make it easy.
Which is funny because I was watching Nintendo Podblog E3 2017, and you had a different name at that time.
Yeah. It was changed. I've changed mine a couple of times, and I've even changed my screen name for Xbox a couple of times. So I probably like 4 times now. So, but yeah. All right. Well, let's throw up the X, because we're about to exit. You guys have a good weekend.
Bye, everybody.